The Japanese Ikemen realm is divided into 7 schools. Let me apologetically introduce the 7 main schools of Ikemen, each named after a common condiment used in Japan. I don't know why it had to be condiments. I didn't decide. Women's ferocious debate on the Ikemenist Ikemen all began with these 2 schools of Ikemen thought. Women used to ask each other, are you with Shoyugao Ikemen, the school of soy sauce-faced Ikemens, or are you with Sosugao Ikemen, the school of sauce-faced Ikemens? And nobody was like, what? All women were like, Shoyugao Ikemen, soy sauce-faced Ikemens. It refers to a Japanese-looking face because soy sauce is a Japanese condiment. They say they have a steady, grounded, reassuring, reliable face. Whatever that means! Sosugao Ikemen, sauce-faced Ikemens. It refers to a non-traditional Japanese look with more defined facial features, unlike the stereotypical Japanese man. Because sauce, like barbecue sauce, is a Western condiment. But in 2013, ladies who had always felt something was off when they had to choose between Shoyugao and Sosugao, they came up with a whole new school of Ikemen thought. Shoyugao was still a little too rich. So ladies who would eat tonkatsu not with sauce, not with soy sauce, but with salt, claimed there were Ikemens, best described as Shiogao Ikemen, salt-faced Ikemen! It refers to a fair, subtly featured face, often with long, thin eyes. But this Shiogao movement became so big that it started affecting the public perception of the word Ikemen itself. It was as if Ikemen and Shiogao were becoming synonymous in people's minds. So soon, celebrities who had always been categorized in the Shoyugao Ikemen school, like Oguri Shun, some women started calling them Shiogao Ikemen. Confusion plagued the Ikemen sphere. And to this development, women who have been with the Shiogao tribe since its beginnings were angry. Pop-sad articles were written, vigorously debating the definition of Shiogao Ikemen. A large-scale recategorization of all Ikemens erupted, and it was finally settled. The number 1 Shiogao Ikemen for the past decade, aka the living definition of Shiogao Ikemen, is Sakaguchi Kentaro, the one and only king of Shiogao Ikemen! There are also Satogao Ikemen, Sugao Ikemen, Ketchup-gao Ikemen, and Mayonnaise-gao Ikemen. But you know what? I don't care enough to tell you! Oh, why? Why, Japan, do you take beauty a little too seriously? The Japanese Ikemen realm is divided into 7 schools. Shoyugao Ikemen, Sosugao Ikemen, salt-faced Ikemen! But you know what? I don't care enough to tell you! Today, let me reluctantly introduce the 4 other schools of Ikemen thought. Satogao Ikemen, sugar-faced Ikemen. It just means baby face, baby eyes, baby skin, just say baby face! To make this remotely interesting for me, since ancient times, having both masculinity and femininity in one person has been considered hot in Japan. And here are the top 3 Satogao Ikemens. Just so you know, there is an online ranking for each frickin' school! Next. Sugao Ikemen, vinegar-faced Ikemen. Actually, these guys look cool in the eyes of men. Sugao Ikemen usually come with long, narrow eyes, single eyelids, thin lips, and ataros. They're said to have this mysterious look. I still don't care! More positive energy. Ketchup-gao Ikemen! It's like a middle ground between Shoyugao Ikemen and Sosugao Ikemen. Middle ground. Did we need this? They do have a hint of non-Japanese looking features. They do look ketchupy. Oh god, the last one. Mayonnaise-gao Ikemen! These are Ikemen with a youthful innocence and a mature sensuality. Fortunately, I can totally see what you're saying! This guy, Yamada Ryosuke, he ranked 1st place in the Satogao Ikemen ranking and 2nd place in the Mayonnaise-gao ranking! We are confused. See, we are very confused! He's that much beautiful? Stop being right! I'd like to close this topic forever with the introduction of a minor 8th Ikemen school. From the boomer generation, Misogao Ikemen. The history of Japanese women's favoritism towards Ikemen, or the Japanese term for good-looking, charismatic men, dates back at least 1,000 years. Sei Shonagon, Japan's first known female essays, captured countless relatable thoughts in words like 夏は夜、月の頃はさらなり、闇もなお、蛍の多く飛び違いたる。Summer is best at night. Moonlit nights are beautiful, needless to say, and even new moon nights are wonderful as well when a sea of fireflies dances about. So Sei Shonagon was an extremely intelligent and sophisticated lady. She's also quite humorous, and this lady penned a certain truth about her preferences without any censorship. Now, during what you call the Heian period, which was like 1,000 years ago, Buddhist monks often preached in front of many people, using a little humor, like giving a TED Talk. And to Heian people, these events were like the rock concerts of today. Sei Shonagon often attended these preaching sessions herself, and she wrote about the experience like this. This basically says, preachers need to be good-looking. We retain stuff because we give our undivided focus on his face! Memories are ephemeral. If we lose focus and look away, the profound lessons of Buddhism might slip away and the heavens might not like that. So she's saying it's sinful for teachers not to be good-looking. This is the earliest known case of this harsh idea. ただしイケメンに限る. This means, but it only applies to イケメン. 自分の好きなことをずっと喋ってる男の人って可愛いですよね。ただしイケメンに限る. This marked the onslaught of Japanese women's relentless favoritism towards Ikemen. I'm gonna give you some examples, and I'm not making these up. There's like a 10,000 word list of sample use cases of this expression online. お金がなくても頑張ってる男の人って素敵だと思います。ただしイケメンに限る。オタクの男性全然行きます。ただしイケメンに限る。男の人は顔じゃないです。ただしイケメンに限る。I'm serious, it's one of the examples of this. I have no more words. Good night. There are many notable Ikemens in Japan, yes. But did you know where it all started? I hereby present the origin story of Ikemen, the story of Ariwara no Narihira, the first recorded Ikemen in Japanese history! Ariwara no Narihira is officially the first recorded Ikemen because it says he was an Ikemen in a history book from the late 9th century. It says, Narihira wa taibou kande, which means Narihira was a quietly elegant nobleman with a refined and graceful bearing and composed physical beauty. He was so Ikemen that he became the protagonist of a novel called Isemonogatari. It says he spent a night with 3,733 women! Isn't that like the audience capacity of the Apollo? Narihira is counted as one of the 6 immortal poets in Japan, and he was especially skilled in writing romantic poems. Poetry skills was a prerequisite to having a flourishing love life in ancient Japan. It's because young noblewomen almost never show themselves in public. Public safety was non-existent then, so women of noble families spent most of their lives indoors in their giant manors. So there was almost no way for strangers to meet them physically. Only textually. Letters were the only way to reach them, but first, your letter needed to pass a security check. Parental screening. My lady, a servant of a man named Ariwara no Narihira dropped by with this letter for our princess. Narihira? The playboy? He doesn't even have a court rank of the 5th degree. We're not gonna give up our precious daughter to a low-rank note. Oh my god. If I were 10 years younger, I would have this cake myself. Someone give this to Takaiko right now! This will turn her into a woman! Princess, a letter from a gentleman. 世の中に耐えて桜の中にせば春の心はのどけからまし That cherry blossoms never existed. Our hearts would never stir each spring to catch a glimpse of the ephemeral beauty that lasts but a week. I wish to see you before fate claims your life. Next Monday, 11 p.m., my bedroom, invite sad! So Narihira was the embodiment of Japanese poetry. Words broke through barriers and moved people's hearts. But Narihira had a reason he became a master poet of seduction. A dark secret lies in his birth. To be continued. While you wait for part 2, I wrote about Narihira and his ancient Japanese love life in my book, Love Tales of Ancient Japan, so please check it out. And here is the story of the first ever historically recorded Ikemen, the master poet of seduction, Ariwara no Narihira Part 2! Narihira had a reason to become a player. In ancient Japan, notable nobles were given one of over 20 court ranks, and as harsh as it sounds, people without any court ranks were not seen as the same human beings. And within the court ranks, nobles with the 5th degree or above were allowed to enter the imperial palace. Everyone else could not. So there was classism between high-ranking nobles and low-ranking nobles. High-ranking nobles were allowed to wear deep, important-looking colors like purple and red, while low-ranking nobles were only allowed to wear lighter, less important-looking colors like green, blue, pale blue. And as you can see, Narihira is depicted with a pale blue outfit. His court rank was not high. It was every noble's dream to reach the highest ranks one day, but Narihira's career path had been cut off as early as his birth, even though he was the grandson of a former emperor. His grandfather, Emperor Heizei, lost the political struggle against his own brother, and his bloodline was removed from the imperial lineage. So Narihira's royal blood was seen as a political risk by the new regime. Because what if he tries to claim the throne one day? That would complicate things. So Narihira was never going to be promoted very high. Born with royal blood, but in vain. The wall of classism stands tall and thick. But do those higher-ups know what penetrates their security walls? Poetry and my manhood. And so he became a master poet and kept seducing women of higher noble families. There was an important woman's role called the Saigu, which was a role reserved for an unmarried daughter of the emperor. She figuratively marries the god of Ise Shrine, so she needs to maintain ritual purity. But Narihira went! He sent her maxed wrist poems, had a one-night stand with her, and came back to Kyoto. Taboo after taboo! And ultimately, he seduced the daughter of a high noble called Fujiwara no Takaiko. Because she was highborn, she was fated to marry the emperor at the time. The emperor's fiancé! Narihira went! And it seems like this time, he actually fell deeply in love with her. Legend goes that they tried to run away together right before the wedding, but they were caught and brought back to Kyoto. So in the spring following the royal wedding, Narihira visits Takaiko's home, which was already empty after she had moved out. He laid down on the floor of the room they used to spend nights together and made this poem. 月あらぬ春や昔の春ならぬ我が身一つは元の身にして The moon is not the moon I know. The spring is not the spring I know. Has everything changed, leaving only myself behind? Will I ever see her again? To be continued! Welcome back to the story of the first ever historically recorded Ikemen, master seduction poet, Ariwara no Narihira Part 3! Narihira, the player of ancient Japan, fell in love with Takaiko, the emperor's fiancé, and tried to run away together right before her wedding. But they were caught and taken back to Kyoto, and of course this was not okay. Takaiko was forced to be on house arrest for like 7 years before she finally married the emperor as originally planned. Meanwhile, Narihira went on a refuge/heartbreak trip to the eastern provinces away from the capital city of Kyoto with a couple of his friends. Like a road trip with the dudes. This stage of his life is the core of the circa 10th century novel Ise Monogatari, or the Tales of Ise. Now in telling this story, it helps to keep in mind that Kyoto was the capital back then, where all the nobles and their political mess and their love triangles and love hexagons were, and Kyoto equals Takaiko in Narihira's mind. So anywhere he goes, anything he sees, they remind him of Kyoto/Takaiko. We've come pretty far. Hey, Narihira, isn't that a kakitsubata? It's beautiful, like Takaiko. Master wrist poet, man. Entertain us! Like, use the letters of this flower's name and make us a poem about this trip! Karakoro mo kitsutsu nare nishi tsumashi areba harubaru koneru tabi o shizou omou. A worn robe that sits like a second skin. Such a wife I've left in the capital. I find myself thinking of her on this journey that has carried me so far away. Takaiko! Hey, isn't that Fuji-san? Wow, it's late May and it still has some snow? Look, Nari... Toki shiranu. Yama wa Fuji no ne itsu to deka. Ka no komadara ni yuki no furu ramu. Mount Fuji. Knowing nothing of the seasons. What does it think the time it is to wear patches of snow like the coat of a fawn? She would never have mistakenly worn a robe so out of season. this is a big river. Hey, Bowman, we've never seen that white bird before. What's that called? Oh, we call them miyakodori, capital bird. Capital bird! 何しようば、いざこととわむ都鳥。我が思う人はありやなしやと。Bird, you bear the name capital. Surely you're savvy of the capital's affairs. Tell me that bird is the one I long for, safe and well. I've left my former royal status and riches in Kyoto. And I have a hunch that I left my heart there too. Narihira, we have a hunch you did too. We're going back! To be continued! And here is the final story of the first ever historically recorded Ikemen, master seduction poet Ariwara no Narihira, part 4. Narihira was separated from the biggest infatuation of his life, Fujiwara no Takaiko, because she was fated to marry the emperor as his consort. They didn't see each other for over a decade after their failed runaway attempt. Now, Narihira's court rank was among the lowest for much of his life because of his unfavorable ancestry, and that meant he didn't have the right to step into the imperial palace where Takaiko lived now as the emperor's consort. Takaiko had become a woman completely untouchable to Narihira. But when Narihira was 50, 17 years after his heartbreak, he was promoted above a noble rank of the 5th degree, which meant he could now enter the imperial palace. Why so suddenly? Takaiko had given birth to a prince, and this prince had been named heir. By the time she was 35, she had become the mother of the new emperor, one of the most powerful figures in Japan. So it is theorized that she put in a good word for Narihira so that he could be promoted. Not only that, Takaiko created a salon for Japanese poetry. There were salons for Chinese poetry until then, but there were none for Japanese poetry. She was the first to make such a salon in the palace. So I believe Takaiko was laying the groundwork to put Japanese poetry masters like Narihira onto center stage. Among a few other master poets, Narihira was invited to her salon. But he could not see her because in this ancient time, men were not supposed to see highborn women they were not married to directly. So there were blinds between Takaiko and the master poets. Her beautifully layered robes and her long hair were the only things that were peeking from under the blinds. When Narihira entered the salon, there was a folding screen with a painting of Tatsuta River colored crimson by autumn leaves. And that was when he read this poem, which he is best known for today. Chaya buru, kami o mo kikazu Tatsuta gawa. Kara kurenai ni misuku kuru to wa. Even in the mystical age of the gods, nothing so miraculous could have happened as this. That the river of Tatsuta should dye its waters and turn them into such a vivid scarlet brocade. Never had anyone filled my fluid heart with love so fervent, with love so radiant. Just like a river cascading downhill, Japanese poetry was eventually recognized as the form of poetry, and it eventually evolved into the haiku of today. So I'd be grateful if you remember that somewhere upstream, there was a love story and heartbreak of an Ikemen master poet, Ariwara no Narihira. Read my book.